Welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast with your host, Olivier Day. This is Awaken the Awesome, a podcast bringing a down-to-earth approach to personal growth. On this show, we're helping individuals just like you learn about tapping into their incredible potential through insightful interviews and inspiring lessons. Our mission is to encourage you to always keep pushing towards achieving your dreams and to stay awesome along the way. Educator, culinary master, mentor, entrepreneur, ambassador, visionary, survivor, man of God, chef. With so many incredible responsibilities under his umbrella, it is no wonder how Chef Stephan Durand is one of the most iconic names, putting their efforts, expertise, and purpose towards championing the exquisite merits of Haitian cuisine beyond borders. From a very early age, he always loved food and preparing it. But once he had the opportunity to serve as a catering chef in the last year of high school, he knew his place was in the kitchen. He made his bones as a chef in the United States Air Force and then transitioned into corporate dining. Putting in the time and sacrifice to hone his skills and perfect his craft would allow him to get actively involved in an ever-changing industry and build a career that would span over 2 decades and, of course, would open a great many doors for him, because his efforts were indeed not be in vain, as the numerous accolades and commendations he has received over his incredible career are too many to mention. Focusing his latest efforts of the past few years on his native Haiti, since he traveled back to his motherland in 2010, Chef Stephan has put in a lot of work towards mentoring and building necessary bridges of opportunity and education for the next generation of incredibly talented chefs. He currently serves as both founder and president of the Haitian Cultural Alliance, and also as co-captain of Haiti's national culinary team. On this episode, Chef Stephan shares a very candid and heartwarming time with us and shares his many insights on the importance of mentorship and sending the ladder back down, the darkness of feeling defeated and broken, recovering from a life-threatening health condition, putting your purpose before profit, and so much more. So let's get into this. Awaken the Awesome, episode 214 with Chef Stephan Durand. Here we go. This is why, you know what, when the universe, because again, we've been trying to do this for a while, but I believe everything happens for a reason. And just hearing you speak is exactly the type of messages that I think that right now, as Haitians, as men, as Black men, as individuals, as fellow human beings, that we need to keep hearing, because a lot of people are suffering in silence, I believe. And these are powerful stories that need to share. So it's a pleasure to have you on. And like I told you right off the bat, this is not CNN. This is not Inside the Actor Studio. This is not, Oprah, even though we're trying to get to those levels, right? We're trying to get to those levels, but
Absolutely.
it's a brother connecting with another brother, because I have to say that I have a lot of appreciation and, great humility and respect for everything that you've done. Your career is an illustrious one. You've shown up and you've put up with so much to put the culture at the forefront of everything you do. I'd like to share a quick anecdote if you want, if you'll let me. I was in Haiti and I hadn't been home by myself in a while, and I mean no kids, no wife, no nothing, just me going back home. So in that part, it was very humbling, because my parents are getting there, so it was nice to actually be there for them, just help out, my mom in the kitchen, my dad, bringing him to his medical appointments. But one thing that really hit me being home, of course, there's the misery, there's the suffering, there's the political instability, there's everything that but everything that every time made it right, because I stayed about 8 days, but every evening we just sit down at the dinner table and my mom would bring the food. And this is not going to be a foodie conversation, but hearing a lot of the content that you share in the interviews that you share, it's always about that feeling of home that a meal can bring. And especially for Haitians, food is the one thing that you cannot take away from us. And for myself, I speak to you right now, even leading up to this conversation, I think of my mom served one of my favorite dishes, which is white rice, pois blanc, cod, morue, zaboka, avocado, served on a plate.
Funny
And
you should say that. It's one of my favorite meals as well.
It's my favorite. And she served it not even because, oh hey, you're home, let me make this. No, it was just, just serve it over dinner. And you know what? In a lot of the interviews you've already given, you always talk about you have to go back to where you come from, because if you don't stay connected to where you come from, you will be lost in this sea called life, and you will be a lost soul. And food is what anchors us. You can say whatever you want on the political spectrum about Haitians. You can say whatever you want in terms of our education and how we are as people. You can try to attack us any which way you want. And you've seen it, you've heard it, you've experienced it. But people like you, as ambassadors of food, our culture, our flag, our heritage, so many illustrious defenders of this treasure that is our Haitian identity, is something I have to really thank you for. I'm not a chef by any measure, but I recognize effort, I recognize discipline, I recognize decency and humanity and generosity of self and care for someone who wants to give back to his community, someone who wants to give back to his people, to his country. From a brother and so many others who want to celebrate you for everything that you do. I just want to say thank you and a heartfelt welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast, brother. It really means a lot.
Listen, um, if you think it's a long time coming for us to have this conversation, I've been, when we started talking during COVID, and had the idea for my podcast, um, you were one of my inspirations. I watched every single podcast video you had,
Oh
so
wow.
that I could learn, um, so that I could learn how to do it correctly. And I'm going to share a very quick anecdote with you. In 2009, I was in New York City. Um, I had I had for a while left, put cooking to the side because I was very fortunate. I'm very fortunate that um, also have a background in marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and at a certain point, um, I ended up taking on the job of developing a brand called Voila,
Mm-hmm.
in the tri-state area in Canada. I became the market manager for that brand.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2009, something happened to me. September 2009, I ended up in the hospital.
Wow.
37 years old, um, and I walked into the hospital because I had an episode. And when I called a cousin of mine who's an EMT, and when I told him what happened, he called his girlfriend who's a doctor. And his girlfriend said, "Don't wait, pick him up. I don't care what he says." So 3 days later,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the operating table,
Wow.
and I'm being operated, open heart surgery with a triple bypass. And I have a friend of mine who came to see, who I was working with. We were developing another product for the Haitian community,
Mm-hmm.
in the tri-state area, and he came to see me, and he said, "Stefan, you need to go home." And I didn't understand what that meant, because I looked at him and I answered him and I said, "But I am home. New York is my home." He said, "No, you need to go home. You need to go home, go to your mother and have your mom take care of you so you can recuperate." And it wasn't until I went back to Haiti that I understood what home meant. And believe it or not, going home revived my whole identity as a chef.
Wow.
And if if there is a Chef Stephan today, even though I have 25 years of a professional cooking experience, if there's a Chef Stephan today, it's because I went home.
Wow.
Home molded the Chef Stephan that I am today. And it made me understand so much that I had to do, not Haiti doing it for me, but me doing something for Haiti. And so that whole passion and mental of promoting Haitian cuisine and really pushing that narrative forward was because I went home.
Wow. And a lot of people are struggling with that because we sometimes want to take on a new identity or thinking, well, that's not for me anymore. Well, I'm past, that's behind me. But it never really leaves you. It's something that's
No,
anchored into
no,
you.
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It surely doesn't. And I'm going to tell you, when I went back home, you know, the first thing I wanted to do, man,
Mm.
I wanted to do what most people find extremely weird of doing. I wanted to take a shower with a bucket
Hmm.
and a goodie in the middle of the yard because I wanted to have that sensation. Right in the middle of the yard with, with a little, with a cigarette, what people call it. And the lady who's at my house, she was, but,
Why?
Mr. Stefan, you have a shower and a bathroom. I said, no, I
You
want
don't
to
get
take,
it.
I said, you don't understand.
I want to bathe with a bucket.
Yes,
Give me a bucket and a cup. I need to bathe. I need
with
to
a
feel it
cup.
splashing over me with a cup.
And I put some shorts on, and I got in the middle of the yard, and I took a shower right there. And there was no greater feeling you could imagine, man.
Is there anything where does it's, I know it's a low hanging fruit question, but for someone as accomplished as you are, what keeps you creative? Because I asked this of, I'm sure you know him by reputation, Chef Alain Lemaire,
Of
and
course, of course,
Alain is my
I,
guy. Alain is my guy. And
of
I
course.
don't know how. And again, like I said, my wife is the foodie. I'm not. I appreciate good food, but don't serve me a half a boiled egg with served on a flour with a coulis of juice. No, that's not me. I like comfort food. Give me something that give me something of substance. But I always wonder what keeps a chef creative? Because how I know this is probably very insulting, how many ways can you make an omelet? How many ways? Because I don't understand what
Actually,
keeps
to
you
be
up at
honest
night.
with you, there's a thousand ways to make an omelet. There's a thousand ways. There's a thousand ingredients that you can put in an omelet. So the omelet is never the same. Okay, there's a thousand ingredients you can put in an omelet. So the omelet, as basic as it is, it's never the same.
It's never the same.
It's never the same. So there is something new to discover every time you make an omelet.
Wow.
So, and I'm gonna tell, and I'm gonna, t- and funny, you know, what keeps me inspired?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I spend a ton of time watching what other chefs are doing. I spend a ton of time reading books, reading cookbooks. I spend a ton of time on Pinterest. So and you want to and I'm going to tell you, every time you get a chance to discover a new cuisine, forget not we're not just talking about Haitian cuisine here.
Hmm.
Every time you get a chance to discover a new cuisine, there is so much to learn. New technique, new ways of preparing an omelet. Okay, The new way of preparing an omelet, from culture to culture to culture, there's a new way of preparing an omelet.
Hmm.
So imagine how much there is to learn when it comes to food.
What I love about this journey of yours is something that always comes back through all the readings and all the interviews I read of you, and especially just seeing you interact with the people who are privileged enough to be in your universe. Is there's a discipline about you, chef. There's an appetite, as you just mentioned, to learn, and I guess the flip side of that question is what separates a good chef from a great chef, from a excellent chef, because you strive for excellence. You and Alain, and then so many others. I just don't want to drop names, but there's a thirst for excellence that's unquenched every single day. You show up, and I see your post, I see the awards, I see the galas, I see the commendations, and it's like that there's a thirst there. And I don't know if it's just me or like I'm sure that they're questioning and critiquing themselves and saying like, nah, this could have been better. And I'm guessing that for people on the come up, because we always want to try to actually emulate that in all facets of our lives, how do we humble ourselves enough to show up to learn? Because I'm sure you've had a mentor, I'm sure you've been an apprentice. And I guess that sometimes, especially with this current generation, there's a lot of impatience. There's a lot of ego, brashness, saying, oh, I got it. I figured it out. But how do we humble ourselves?
The worst thing you can ever do is let ego drive you. I'm going to tell you, when I after I went back to Haiti and I created the platform Guis Avec la Caille, and I started, and every year I would have 10, 15 chefs that I would invite to Haiti to come cook with me, 10, 15 chefs every year. I would make sure that I was not only in the kitchen with them, even if I wasn't doing an event with them, but the fact that I could rub elbows with another chef and see how they were doing certain things and see what technique they were using. And what I did is after every year I was done with the festival, I would take 1 or 2 weeks and I would invite myself to go visit one of these chefs and just cook with them every day.
Wow.
If the day you stop being hungry for knowledge is the day you might as well stop being in this career. And I truly believe that for any career, but specifically food. If you're not thirsty every day to learn something new, I'm going to tell you,
Hmm.
I think one of the gifts that I realized that I had is that I could see somebody do something. For example, there's a lot of chefs who talk about being in the kitchen with their grandmother and cooking with their grandmother.
Yes.
Me, my whole thing was sitting in the kitchen with my grandmother and tasting everything. I wasn't cooking
Okay.
with her, but I can tell you with a certain level of certainty, every dish my grandmother has ever cooked while growing up. And without having a recipe, just watching them do it, I can, with a certain level of certainty, I think I can get close to how they cooked it themselves. So when I'm looking at pages and pages of other chefs and what they're doing, so what I do is I break down the dish
Hmm.
in my head, and I don't have their recipe, but I'm pretty sure I can cook that dish. It'll be my version of it, but I'm pretty damn sure I can come close.
So it's okay to emulate. it's okay to learn from
Why
people who are
not?
before you, because a
Why
lot of
not?
people always want to be innovators, but it's okay to learn. Everybody gets inspiration.
Why not? Why not? There's nothing wrong at 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 watching what another chef is doing and wanting to be as creative, uh, 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 um, be as artistic, be as uh, There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with watching what another chef is doing and asking, "How did you do that?" Let me tell you, one of my favorite basketball player ever, other than Magic Johnson, is Kobe Bryant.
Hmm.
And you know why?
How come?
Because he was a true student of the game. He was never afraid to talk to another basketball player who he thought he could learn from and say, "Can you teach me how to do that?"
And one thing I realized from people who, and again, success leaves clues and success breeds success. What I mean by that is I love that example because it's so true. When I think Shaq gave that example when he was trying to build himself up, past his career because he knew that most basketball he was wise enough to know that most basketball players who retire basically don't have much of a future. But he was smart enough to go seek guidance from who? Magic Johnson. Because Magic Johnson was doing big things. And you know what? He called Magic up and said, okay, how do I do this? How do I set myself up? How do I create a brand? And you know what? That is something that most people are afraid to admit. Admit what you don't know. Admit that you're going success is going to leave you clues. Chef Stephan has probably 25, 30 years of experience. Say, okay, I'm in year one. I'm apprenticing. I'm washing dishes in the back kitchen. Well, watch, learn, ask questions, stay overnight. These things happen. And can you think because I guess also one thing that a lot of people are afraid of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if that's true of the food industry as well, especially for chefs, people are afraid to fail, and I think they don't know how to deal with that anymore.
Of
Can you
course,
think of a time where failure has showed up at your door, and how did you bounce back?
listen, failures showed up at my door so many times. I failed to stop. I stopped counting. I stopped counting. And to be honest with you, see chefs like, when I see chefs like, for example, Alain and Jovens and so many others, and to see what they're doing now, and these guys, mind you, are much younger than me, and I look at these guys, and I admire them. I admire their drive. I admire their skills. I admire the food that they're putting out there. And I have always been, again, the applauder of all these guys. I applaud every one of them. I celebrate them.
This is why you have to surround yourself with people who want to see you win. See, that's a great example because so many times that admiration for some people often gets turned into jealousy, envy, condescension, naysaying. But why don't we
And
just put out good energy out there?
and
Why?
even though every most of these chefs look at me and think I'm the godfather of Haitian cuisine, or um, I'm the one who opened so many doors for chef of Haitian descent to take on that mantle of promoting the cuisine now. They don't realize that I admire them as much as they do me.
And they will open doors for someone coming up after them because it's all about passing the torch, passing the torch. It's a circle. It has to keep going. It
But
has
if
to
you're
keep
not
flowing.
doing that, no matter how many accolades you've received in your life, no matter how many awards, no matter how much money you've made, if in your career you've not opened the door for somebody else, I consider that failure.
So we owe it to someone, even though we don't know them. We owe it to someone to just leave the door open.
Absolutely.
Wow.
If you're not doing that as part of your career, if you're not leaving the door open for somebody else, if you're not taking your knowledge and inserting it into someone else and sharing it with someone else, you've you, because as successful as one can be,
Hmm.
what are you leaving behind? What is your legacy?
What will they know you for?
Yeah. What's your
Wow.
legacy? At the end of the day,
That touched, that really pulled at my heart. You know why? Because I don't know why this hit me, but I was listening to a podcast just last week, and the guest shared this saying. It was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was really powerful. We die two deaths. The first one is our physical departure from this world when our body shuts down, obviously, the one we're all used to. And the second is the last time someone says your name.
absolutely.
The
And
last
guess
time
what?
someone says your name.
And guess what? The second one is worse. And I'm going to tell you, and you can relate to that. Many can relate to that. My grandfather was extremely influential in my life. When he passed, he left me with his ring, and he said to my aunt, "This has got to go to my son, Stefan." And I've carried that ring in my finger for the last 30 years.
Wow.
And every time I look at this ring, I'm reminded of the lessons that my grandfather left for me. So
Hmm.
in retrospect, he's never gone.
He lives on. That's what they mean. He lives on.
In retrospect, he's never gone. And my job as a man, as a father, is to pass on that ring to my son and to pass on the lesson learned to my son, because that's how I make sure that I'm never forgotten.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, when you have inspired someone, when you have taken someone under your wing, when you have shared your knowledge with somebody else, guess what? You can never be forgotten.
And I know that your journey is really also marked by a lot of passion. You shared that it wasn't really in your cards, in your interpretation, that food was in the cards for you. But the fact that you've put in so much passion to something so sometimes intangible, because food is so many things. Food is as much as cornflakes, as it is soup, as it is Creole cuisine, as it is Cajun. Food is, it's a word, but it's a world at the same time. But
It's a
what,
world.
it's a
It is a
world.
world. It
But
is a world.
some of us, you chose food as your path. But a lot of us right now, I'm 42, and a lot of people that speak to me listening to these episodes also tell me, well, I don't know what I want to do, because Chef Stephan seems so at ease, so at peace, so connected to food and cuisine and cooking and ambassadorship. But I don't know what I want to do. How do we help them, chef? Because they're confused, they're lost, they're scared, but they don't know
Because
what to do.
because one, I I accepted the gift that I accepted the gift that God gave me,
Mm,
but I also, and again, this is about going home. When I went home, I understood what my purpose was. It's about creating opportunities and platforms for other people.
So food is the
And
tool.
once I understood the food is a tool, and once I understood that purpose, I'm going to share another moment with you. A year and a half ago, like I was telling you earlier,
Hmm.
I woke up one morning. I woke up one morning and I couldn't put my foot on the floor. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't put my foot on the floor. I know I was in very bad pain,
Wow.
and I spent 3 months in the hospital and 9 months in a wheelchair. And I share this in many of my posts. I thought my identity and who I was over, because if I can't cook, then I'm no longer Chef Stephan, or so I thought I was.
Hmm.
So I thought that cooking was the only thing that defined who I am as a chef. But being a chef is not just cooking. Being a chef is being a leader, is being somebody who inspires, is being somebody who who's a creator, who's a and that passion for food is my drive.
You have the
And
vision.
and once I understood, once I understood that, I came out of depression. I was in a very, very bad depression. 9 months in a wheelchair. I was contemplating suicide.
Really.
Yes, because for me, my life was over.
Thank God you're still here.
It's humble pie. So I understand that not just cooking is part of my passion, but making sure that I'm able, or I'm the one who's able to be part of creating platforms and opportunities for other chefs to shine is also part of the persona that Chef Stefan is.
You talked about the gift, about leaning into your gift, and about listening to the universe and to God, where your talent and your gift lies. Some people, unfortunately, don't listen to that voice. Some people are afraid. Some people are saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. There's a lot of negative self talk going on, preventing us from leaning into that gift. And I'm not sure if you have, some words of comfort or some words of, pointing us in the right direction and tell them it's okay.
Absolutely.
Make that step,
I'm gonna tell you a short story.
please.
1991, I graduated from high school. During my senior year, my whole year, I cooked with a cousin of mine who was a chef, and he used to ask me to come and help him in the kitchen. And I thought nothing of it. And when I graduated high school, funny thing that what direction did I go into is most what the Haitian culture stigma seems to want you to go towards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an engineer, an architect,
Mm-hmm.
um, an accountant, those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went into finance. So my direction was finance.
Wow.
And And during my whole college experience, which by the way, it took me, now you want to talk about failure, it took me 6 years to realize that none of these things was for me.
6 years.
6 years. I kept changing major, kept studying something else, but I was always cooking. Cooking came as one of the most natural things for me as anything else I had, but I never understood that gift. Never realizing that God had given me a gift. It took 6 years.
That's a
And the
long
day
time.
and the day I walked it into culinary school, I did my bachelor's degree in 2 years.
See, your dreams will make room for you. And just picturing yourself after bachelor's degree to now, you've had lots of adventures and unfortunate misadventures. But, Chef, did you ever see all of this?
Not even close. And I'm going to tell you even worse. And this is a mistake a lot of us make is sometimes we watch our peers and we see their success, and there is a little bit of inner jealousy, especially when in my case where I'm sitting, I'm unable to perform at maximal capacity the way I was able to before.
Hmm.
So you're watching your peers going from event to event and doing all these things, and you're like, I should be there.
I'm guilty of that.
And then here's what you do that's even worse. You don't realize how far you've gone, and you don't celebrate that. Instead, you're focusing on what's not happening for you. Instead of taking a step back and say, God damn it, man. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've done in 14 years. From moving back to Haiti in 2009 before the earthquake to 2023, what you've been able to accomplish. And then instead of taking a minute go through, and this is what's great about social media, is that once you make a post, it's never gone, right?
Hmm.
So it's easy to go back. And it wasn't until this recent award that I received that I started going back. I said, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this. Did I ever thought in my wildest dream that going back to Haiti, I would be able to do all of that? Because sometimes we're always waiting for somebody else to validate us and give us a pat on the back instead of us giving ourselves a pat on the back sometimes.
You have to love yourself.
So guess what? Now, and you know, my a very good friend of mine, who also happens to manage me and is my business partner in many ways. You know, he calls me, he says, Stefan, as much as you love to cook, you have come to a point in your life where you can just be the curator, where you can just be the organizer,
Hmm.
where you can just create opportunities for other chefs. And it's okay. You don't have to prove it anymore. My father said to me, who I hadn't spoken. My father left the home when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
So I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my grandfather. And it took me 15 years to have my first conversation with him.
Wow.
And he called me on the phone He called me on the phone and shared something very profound with me. He said, "You've chosen the profession of being a chef. It is the closest thing you will do to be close to God. Because when you share a meal with someone, when you cook for someone, you not you don't only feed them physically, but what you fail to realize is you share a part of your soul with that person who's about to have your food."
I never saw it like that. I know there's an intimacy that you share with whatever patron, whatever guest, whatever family member you cook for, but I never heard it interpreted like that. Gives me a lot to think about. Wow, this is true.
That's why when you're a chef, when you are truly passionate about your craft, you want to do it right every time.
That's where the passion comes from.
You want to do it right every time.
Wow. Wow. Chef, it's been such a revealing exchange. Like there was no setup to this, only heart, brotherhood, and love. Because this is love coming through this call. And through so much, especially the fact that despite, your health scare, your health issues, you're mending and you're still here as the ferocious warrior that you are. For so I want to thank God and everyone involved near and far that you're still here with us because you've had a lot of battles to overcome. But in spirit and mind and courage, I celebrate you for everything that you're doing, the fact that you're still here teaching us what it's like to be resilient and to keep showing up. I want to say thank you for this time. I learned a lot. I am full and I am humbled by everything. This is not the last of our conversations. I'm grateful for it. But I just want to say, as simply as it can be told, thank you so much for this time.
It's certainly my pleasure. I've been looking forward to having a conversation with you for a long time. I appreciate you as well. I appreciate you as well. I appreciate our conversation, um, and I look forward to what's next, man.
Definitely. Definitely. If any one of the listeners ever want to connect with you on the interwebs, any particular place we can direct them to how to follow up on your latest happenings?
Um, Chef Stephan dot it. So instead of so I write it the way it's supposed to be written, which is AYITI.
I love it.
Yes.
I
So Chef
love it.
Stephan dot it. They can also find me on LinkedIn. They can also find me on Facebook. Um, just hit me up. Just hit me up. I'm always happy and willing to share the little that I have with someone else.
Definitely. We will definitely link it up. I'll make sure I have all the links in the blog post once the episode goes live. We do have a running tradition on the show, what I like to call the next step. How I phrase it is basically anyone listening to this, because we spoke about it earlier in the recording, even if we can touch one person, and if we can look at this person and give them one item, one next step, whether a book, a prayer, a daily mantra, a daily habit, anything they can use as a next step towards their next level if they wake up tomorrow. What can we leave them with, Chef?
Well, I'm learning to do two things myself. Is every morning I give a moment to God. Um, my the beginning of my day to God. Uh, the way I pray is that I listen to gospel music.
Mm-hmm.
It inspires me. It energizes me. It gives me that boost of energy right before my cup of coffee to get my day going. And even though I spend most of my time at home right now, and I also listen to other people who can inspire you. Go to YouTube. Listen. Every day I listen to whether it's a talk by Kobe, whether it's a talk by another influencer, somebody who is saying something that um, gives you that little bit of energy, and then make sure that you bring that positive energy to you. And once you do, a lot of clarity comes together.
Wow.
A
That's what
lot
we
of
need.
clarity comes together. Listen, man, I've learned to humble myself um, in such a way and say, you know what, God, help me get to that next step. For
And he
me,
will
that's
provide.
and I believe it, and I believe it,
He will provide. Wow.
and I believe it.
Chef Stephan Durand, uh, what else can be said? It's a truly an honor, a pleasure, and a thrill to have you on. And the listeners of the Awaken the Awesome podcast are just that more knowledgeable and just that more humbled because of it. We wish you nothing but the best of and brightest, especially, of course, a very healthy and safety recovery, but of course, brightness and greatness towards all your wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ventures. Because a visionary such as yourself, I feel it through this call. There's so much that we have yet to see, and I'm excited to witness it as soon as it shows up. But I thank you so
Only,
much. Thank you so much.
only the thank yous are returned right back to you. I appreciate the time we got to share and the moment we got to share together, and I look forward to many more conversations with you, man.
As always, guys, another episode of the Week in the Austin podcast in the can. My guest, Chef Stephan Durand. I will, of course, link up all his presences, all the web links in the blog post once it goes live. As always, guys, thank you so much for promoting this mission. Share the episode if you found some value. I'm sure you did. And through your recommendations and your sharings and the reviews, those are very important. That's how we keep the mission going. As always, guys, stay blessed, stay safe. And as always, stay awesome. This has been another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast. We always love to get your feedback, so please do drop us a line via Instagram, Facebook, or email. Our email address, awakentheawesome@gmail.com. Do visit our official website at awakentheawesome.ca, where you can find our entire back catalog of episodes and incredible guests. Also, if you haven't already, please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, give us a rating, and leave us a review, as this helps us tremendously in growing this podcast and spreading the word to more awesome listeners like you. We always appreciate your support, and thank you for listening. Stay awesome.